everyone, this is Jazzy Lady. Just wanted to drop a quick bit on some thoughts about the 154 division. There's been a lot of talk and speculation, as we know, lately about, of course, Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence and that potential fight that may never happen in our lifetimes, the fight that we are simultaneously wanting to happen and also simultaneously at the same time we're so exasperated we kind of don't even care if it happens anymore, right? I think we're kind of, a lot of us are mentally drained from even talking about that fight at this point. So with that being said, with all of us kind of being mentally drained from the Terrence Crawford Errol Spence at 147 fight, I think the question is what lies ahead. And a lot of us have started to think about maybe 154 and if that could happen. And I think that there's a lot of potential at 154, and I think that that's the X factor, so to speak. Meaning that's I think that's going to be the weight class where the rubber kind of hits the road. That's the division where all the bodies are going to be buried, so to speak. Meaning people are either going to stop going up in weight at that division, or they're going to really show their even greater skill at that division. Um, some people gain power as they increase in weight, and some people lose power as they increase in weight. And I think the question, particularly for, let's just say, even Errol Spence, if he goes up, well, we know he's going supposedly, if he fights Keith Thurman this year at 154, the big question is, and I don't ever assume anything at any weight class. What I love about boxing is that it's there again is there's the potential of the unknown. You never really know for sure. And those are the fights I like. I don't like fights where there's going to be an obvious winner or it's so obvious and lopsided in the one side in terms of skill set. I like what I call the I like the 50-50 fights where you really aren't too sure about any of the opponents. I don't like when you're 100% sure that your guy that you're picking is going to win. I like fights where I'm not sure who's going to win. If it's very obvious to me that someone is probably going to beat this other person up, I'm not really going to look forward to it. It's almost like someone telling you the ending of a movie before you go to see it. Well, I don't want to see it anymore because I know how it's going to turn out. So I want to be surprised at the end. So I like fights where there's an element of suspense. And to me, honestly, the biggest draw with the Spence Crawford fight, going back to that real quick, is to me it's the perfect 50-50 fight. It is a fight I think where a good amount of us weren't 100% sure. Because if I had really seriously thought that either one of those guys was just going to go in and destroy each other, I wouldn't have been looking forward as much to Spence and Crawford if I thought it was going to be very lopsided one way or the other. I've never thought that. Now I am more like of a Crawford, like I'm leaning more like I'm a Crawford fan, but I've been watching boxing long enough and many years enough, you know, over 30 years that I know how to be a fan of a boxer, but also realistic because I love the sport. Okay. More than I love any boxer. So I can admit that, yeah, of course there's a possibility that Crawford could get hurt. He could lose. He could get a vicious body shot. He could get an uppercut from Spence and get knocked the hell out. That's a possibility. Also, there's a possibility that Crawford could do the exact same thing to Spence, and he could uppercut the shit out of Spence. He could give him a body shot. He could just, give him the punch from hell that Spence didn't see coming, and just it's lights out. Or the fight could just go 12 rounds, which is actually a very real possibility that a lot of people don't seem to want to accept. I know everyone would like the exciting knockout from either one of these guys before round 12, but with all the hoopla about the Spence Crawford fight, the most ironic thing would be is if the fight does happen and it goes to freaking 12 rounds decision after all that. But that would just prove my point that it's a true 50-50 fight where the skill sets are evenly matched in the sense that one opponent's strength is another opponent's weakness. So that's where we're going there. But back to 154, I think if Spence and Thurman, I mean, I'm leaning Spence, of course, that I think he could beat Thurman, but I think that's because we're all assuming that we've seen Thurman struggle with body shots, particularly, in the past. And we assume that because we most people that have watched Spence can see that he likes to go to the body and work that area. We feel like, oh, he's going to get you, Thurman. He's going to work your body. He's going to destroy you. You don't like that area. You seem to be particularly sensitive to that area, Thurman. Spence is definitely going to win this fight. But we don't necessarily know that because we don't know if Spence is going to gain power or increase in power at 154 or lose power. The assumption is that Spence is going to get more powerful at 154 and increase in strength. We don't know that. We haven't seen him at 154. We also haven't seen Thurman at 154. He may gain power at 154 and be a better fighter at 154 than 147. Those body shots that seem to bother him so much at 147 may not bother Thurman at 154. So there is that X factor that we don't know what's going to happen if they fight. Okay? So again, I think it's actually a fun matchup. I would prefer that it would be for belts on the line to kind of make it mean a little bit more to us, but it will be a fun fight. I would again prefer it to be for belts, but if it's not, I would definitely still watch the fight just because as a boxing fan, I'm curious to see how Spence and Thurman's bodies react. I want to see how their bodies acclimate to 154. And again, if I see their skills in any way increase or change or sometimes the skill that got you at a lower weight doesn't help you as much at a higher weight. How does the weight change affect their skills is what I want to see. And also, let's talk about another fight. I mean, what if if Spence fought Jermell Charlo, if Spence or Crawford fought Jermell Charlo, okay, that's another 50-50 fight. I think if Spence fights Jermell Charlo, I mean, Jermell definitely has a chance. He's taller. He's about 2 or 3 inches tall. I think Jermell is 5'11", and Spence, I believe, is 5'9". So I think, no, I'm sorry, maybe it's a 2-inch difference. So he's got the height, and he does have power. Jermell does have knockout power. He could definitely knock out. I think there's a possibility he could, and I know this may make people, they can't believe this, but Spence could get knocked out by Jermell. He could really hurt him. And I noticed with Jermell's fights, he seems to always stop people unexpectedly in order to send in a way that you didn't see coming. I've noticed that. So there is a element of definitely surprise with Jermell when he knocks people out. It really does seem to come out of nowhere. So I'm curious to see how that will play out between him and Spence. And again, the body shots that hurt people at 147, that Spence was working that body at 147 and really hurting and destroying all his opponents. I don't know what that would do to Jermell at 154. I don't know if the body shots that work so well for Spence at 147 would do as much damage at 154. I don't know if they would hurt Jermell. But again, they could, because Spence could actually really gain strength at 154. And his body shots could be more vicious, and he could cause a lot of problems to a lot of people at 154. So that's an exciting matchup. And listen, with Crawford at 154, I think what actually would be interesting at 154 is Crawford and Spence at 154, just to see, again, how both of their powers increase or diminish at 154. I want to see what happens to Crawford if he moves up. That's what I want to see. And I would like to see that played out against Spence. And listen, if Crawford would actually, if he would go to 154 and stay there, I would like to see him fight. I don't know, maybe. And again, I would caution Crawford or Spence to fight Jermell Charlo immediately, because I don't know if they're ready. I know in their mind they feel like they're ready, but he's undisputed for a reason. And if they just jump up and fight the undisputed champion as their, one of their first or early fights, I don't know if that's a good idea, because if you come up to 154 and you fight Jermell and he beats you, that's your first or second fight at one. I don't know. I don't know if you want that loss so quick. Maybe try to get a win or two before you fight the undisputed champion at 154. And I'm scared if Terrence or Errol would fight Jermell right away at 154, whoever fights him, if one of those two do fight Jermell, I think they could both get a loss. Definitely. Do not estimate Jermell Charlo's power or skill set, which I think has increased over the years. There was a time I definitely thought that Jermell was the better or superior boxer, but I'm not sure about that anymore. I think that Jermell definitely still has skills, but I will say that Jermell's skills have increased to the point where I would say he's almost at the level of what I thought Jermell was about 4 or 5 years ago, right? So there's some fun matchups there. I mean, Crawford at 154, Spence at 154. I don't think either one of them should fight Jermell in their first or second fight, even if Thurman and Spence fight, if Thurman beats Spence, I don't think that he should fight Jermell at his second fight. I still don't necessarily think that's a good idea. I think that they should maybe have a fight or two and then fight him. And it would also help give the fight some build up too. It would help build the fight up. I think that Crawford could fight maybe, and this is again, maybe first fight or two. I think Crawford could fight maybe, who could he fight? He could fight, and this would be interesting to me, Julian Williams, J-Rock. I would love to see Crawford and Julian Williams fight at 154. That would be very interesting to me. Um, and I think, well, I was gonna say Jarrett Hurd, but I think is he at once? I think he moved up to 160 for a few fights, but I thought I heard he might move back down to 154. But if he ever would go back down to 154, Jarrett Hurd, if he's not down there now, I think he might still be 160. I would think Jarrett Hurd would be interesting. I think Jarrett Hurd could give Spence and Crawford a lot of problems. I think that would be a very interesting fight. It'd be kind of funny because I think that, especially with, well, either one of them, because of the way he digs the body. I think Jarrett Hurd can be a bit of a monster there too. That'd be interesting. Actually, I think Tony Harrison would be a dangerous fight for Spence and Crawford. Tony Harrison is like a thinking man's fighter. He's a thinking man's boxer. I like Tony Harrison a lot, and I think he could give them both problems. So I would be wary of either one of them fighting Tony Harrison either at their first fight. I think that he could give them problems. So I don't know about Tony Harrison either. I think he could cause a lot of problems for either one of them. But I think that it would be a good fight. But yeah, maybe they could. Maybe they could just, listen, they could just aim high and they could start with Tony Harrison right away. Again, a lot of it's going to depend what's going to happen with Spence and Thurman. If they fight this year, if he beats Thurman, how he looks against Thurman, I think is going to determine what he wants to do. If he really struggles with Thurman, he might go, you know what? This isn't the division for me. I'm going to drop back now. Or he may say, you know what, the hell with it. That was my first fight. I didn't do too great, but I won. If he really struggles with Thurman but wins and barely gets a win, he's definitely not going to go for Jermell next. He's gonna, he's gonna try another opponent or two, get his body acclimated, and then go from there. I know Andre Ward said it took him about 2 years for his body to acclimate from 168 to 175. So he said it takes Andre Ward said it takes almost 2 years for your body to adjust to the weight class. So it's going to take Spence some time if he decides to stay at 154. He can let it build up to Jermell Charlo and fight him in about 2 years or so. I mean, him and Jermell are actually the same age. They're both 32, or well, they're going to be 33 this year. So that'd be interesting. And the same thing with Crawford. I think not, start out with someone that's good, but maybe not the best, not Jermell, and then work up and see. So just wanted to, share some thoughts on that, because I was thinking about, we're going to have to start to move on from Crawford, Spence. As painful it is for us to say, we're going to have to start to move on. And why not? There's so many other exciting possibilities and matchups with both of these fighters. So whether you're a fan of Crawford or a fan of Spence, it doesn't mean you can't still be a fan. It just means that maybe not so much of those two fighting each other, but there can still be good. I think there can be a lot of still good, exciting matchups for those two, and just in boxing in general. So I always like I kind of like the potentiality of matchups too. If you're a real fight fan like me, you sort of like thinking about the possibilities of fights that could happen, gets the blood flowing. So I just wanted to share a few thoughts on that, but I'll be back later with another video. Bye.